I know a lot of people say, well, this is therapeutic for me. And this is that. Absolutely. There's going to be things that are great that not just sitting in a room with your therapist. That is not therapy. But like for me, acts of travel and seeing different things, that for me is therapeutic. Absolutely. I need that for my soul. I need it for my soul. And that's why I do take like my little vacations, my little just getaways. It's therapeutic. It is not therapy though. I can't replace my therapist, you know, and I've had one, and I tell all of us we need to have a therapist. Like, we don't have to see them every week or whatever.
Right.
But if you have one that knows you and that you trust, we all need that because we are human first, therapist second.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, and it's funny because one of the guys I listen to on my podcast, he is, you know, he's clinical psych and he's, you know, whatever. And he says, listen, I love the way he said it. He goes, because we all have to have our space. He goes, and sometimes we also have to unburden, you know, and
Absolutely.
He goes, I have a therapy. He goes, I've been seeing him 30, 40 years. He goes, I'll call him for a check-in, just for a check-in. He goes, because then I go, need some space.
Right.
Because that is the thing, is that so many times we do take on so much. And I also get that question is like, how do you do it? Like, aren't you here? And I go, it's not mine. It's not mine. You know, and I said, yes, I love my people. Y'all know I love big. But I'm like, it's not mine. I said, so I get to be objective. I get to be that, like, you know, problem solver. And also it's funny when you were talking about, friends or, you know, listen to this and that, you know, and what I tell my people, I said, but here's the thing. I said, I don't have a dog in the race. And I said, and so when you come in with me or with somebody else, I said, plus you're listening through it, you know, again, I always go logic, limbic brain, because limbic brain, you know, we're emotional, we're connected, we're conditioned. We know what Nella's going to say. Oh, Nella, she's always going to tell me, I don't want to tell her. TJ's going to be, you know. And so it's like, we go, okay, yeah, but this is all about you. And I tell them, this is your treat. This is for you. No judgment, no anything. You leave it here. You give it to me. I give it to my plastic plant. Earl, man, he loves a good trauma dump. He identifies as a sequoia. He loves a good trauma dump. I was like, oh, look at you. He just grew 6 inches. Don't tell him he did it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Earl, man, he's great. He's been with every office. But, and then they look at me because they just go, what? Because I do. I try to just let them know. And I just normalize it with them.
Absolutely.
And that's why I said,
I love it. Yep, normalize.
And then, but I pull in a lot because I'm such, you know, as an educator, I've always done that. And I've always, because one of my girls even said, she goes, I love that you bring in, you know, sometimes it's, you know, self, you know, things or other people. She goes, because I do feel like I'm crazy sometimes, like, because I am so in my head and I don't know if I'm doing it right, wrong, or indifferent. And she goes, and when you say something, she goes, okay, so I'm not that unhinged. Oh no, girl, you are. No, you are. Because I mean, no, but I mean, it is, but that's what I'm saying. And even with that, I say, you know, some of the times it's what you think is like your biggest weakness or that you're avoiding is actually your biggest strength, but you've got to understand it. And that was one of my biggest things. And I wanted to share this today because I always talk about self-acceptance. And I heard something the other day and it said, we have to self-accept so we can self-advocate. I was like, yeah, that's that last little part, because I'm always talking about, but when you know who you are and you're in that 4th divorce and you start to go, okay, clearly I'm the only constant here. What is happening? Because even like what you said, some friends are hard. Well, just do this. I don't know how, or I don't even know what it is, you know, and that's why I think when people come into therapy looks very different now than it did, you know, 20, 30 years ago. We are a lot more like just, you know, trying to give that good information and, you know, because it's like, people are getting TikTok diagnosis and, oh, my friend and this friend and they, and I'm always like, and who's they? And, oh, well, you know, because on Facebook, and I go, stop, like, please stop. And it's like, people have just given their authority and power away to all of these things that they think. And so then they just hate themselves. Well, I can't do that. I'm not that. And I go, but who are you?
Right. That's a really good point too. It's like, you know, people are using TikTok as their therapist, you know, and that it can go down a rabbit hole real fast, you know. I mean, there some good stuff on there? Absolutely. There's some great things that I see on TikTok and great videos and great inspirational, you know, motivational people on there. But then you have the ones that are not. So how do you differentiate between the two? You know, you're going to have to really look at that and have someone objective be able to say, okay, well, yeah, you heard this from this person on TikTok. But let's look at that a little bit deeper, you know, and how does that apply to your life and your situation? Not everything is going to be fit into this little box.
Right. And I think too, besides that, you know, having your own therapist, that it's personal for you. And we create those individualized, you know, treatment plans just for you. So it's not like when you go on TikTok, that's like for everybody. You know what I mean? Or like you may, come up on somebody's, I don't even know how TikTok work, y'all. I just know I've been on TikTok before and I scroll up and I see all these things. But if you have your own therapist, your therapist can give you that treatment plan that fits you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and funny because just with one of my newer clients, we were talking about the algorithms, and of course, again, the hardest person to convince of anything is somebody that's been deceived. And we know that there's a lot of information out there that is not true, not accurate, and or bits and pieces of it are, and it's whatever. But if you don't know, again, if you don't know who you are struggling, and you start getting on this algorithm and you start confirming all of these things that
I see where you
are
going.
not right, well, then that becomes, no, if I don't wear my Converse on Tuesday, I am not okay.
Who told you that?
And and they can't even, and I'm like, okay, well, you got your Converse on, but you're not okay. You know what I mean? So I still try to go in and still meet them where they are, but they start to go here, but then that becomes their belief system. And so it's just very sad, because it's like, we do have a lot of kind of lost, little people and we're trying to build that connections back up and trying to do all this stuff. And like you said, I think because we're seasoned, old lady, we use it as tool. I love it because I'm always, as an educator, I'm always like, how do I, get this in a way that's I can get my point across. And so even like I've always been self-acceptance. I'm like, ooh, self-advocacy. Yeah, that works, but we know what we do, right. And I do get some good things. And I do get some like, oh, that was really cool. But we use it as tools, got a hammer, got a saw, yeah. But everybody else, it's like, no, I'm building my house on the TikTok diagnosis and you can't tell me anything and you're wrong. Or I can't because you. So they literally end up limiting themselves on the very things that they need to grow.
We need to start normalizing therapy and normalizing having friends as therapists and not judging you automatically. And, normalizing other, areas like doctors and attorneys, they're human first. So,
absolutely.
We have to remember that. I mean, now, of course, there are people who take that position that they're in and make it appear that they're above other people. Unfortunately, that is a reality in all areas, and I've seen
even
it.
Therapy,
sure,
even therapy.
Oh, even therapists.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There are therapists that are like, I'm above you because I know all this and I have all these degrees. Well, that didn't mean shit. I'm sorry. If you're not a good human being and you don't recognize, oh yeah, there's a shit. I see it comes
you should
out.
never make your clients feel that way.
No. And unfortunately there are people so don't let if you've seen that before, that behavior, like with a therapist or a doctor or whoever it is, I know me like playing a dual role of an owner and a business, person and, a therapist. It's like that's what I do. That's not who I am. So that's a big thing, is like recognizing that I am a human first. Absolutely. And I do have just as many probably, issues as everyone else and insecurities as everyone else and problems saying no, like everyone else and stuff like that. So, we're not perfect. We use our knowledge the best that we can. I think when you come from a good place and you are authentic and you're in it for the right reasons,
absolutely.
It doesn't mean that we're going to be psychoanalyzing and judging you.
Well, because that's the thing. I mean, and it really does come down, and I love that. Like, our who is not what we do. We don't get wrapped up in, but again, it's like, if I'm, going back to therapists and a lot of people, and it's funny because you said something earlier about, most of the people that you deal with or talk to they're in our field. And I told my students just this week, I said, y'all, I had an aha moment because I didn't realize I'm here all the time. I teach psychology at the college all the time and I exercise, you know what I mean? So it's like, when am I really out of my bubble, I guess, of academia and all this stuff? And so, I've been doing a lot more like, dancing with one of our former things. Jeannie and I have been doing a lot. And cause that's therapeutic for me. And and it has really kind of brought me back and, just listening and meeting different people and everything. And, just kind of hearing them talk and and I'm like, oh, yeah, not everybody's in this field. Oh, okay. Wow. Because it's sometimes, and even with that's a good reality check for us because I'll hear just, language or conversations going on. And of course, and even with that, sometimes I want to go, oh, no, that's not. Oh, okay. And, cause it's just my thing. And I go, wow, there's a lot of people that really don't They don't know this stuff. And, you know, that was a good, and I told my students, I go, yeah, we're doing some good work. I said, but there's still a lot of people that this is not in their world at all, you know? And so that's why we keep doing. But I mean, even with that, I had to remember that, yeah, everybody's still learning. Everybody's still growing. And I can't even, because sometimes, you know, we get in there just like, well, why don't you know that? That is not my place. You know, I have to still, we're still at basics. That's okay, you know, and get back down there. And so it's always a good reminder too for us when we're not.
Yep.
And I didn't even realize I wasn't like in, I guess, that world, like not that much. It was very interesting. So when you said that, I was like, I literally just talked about that.
And it's not on purpose. It's just happens.
Where we are.
Yeah.
I know.
I do have a few friends who aren't. Like I have nurse friends, but they're still in some type of field where, you know, you can
like
still education. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it was it was kind of
then
funny.
I got bougie friends who they don't work, but they're still good people.
Yeah. I love that. That was cute.
You know who you are.